It's June 4th, 1918, and Origins places us in Meuse, France, one of the departments in the north of France. The location of the map isn't very specific. All we have to go on is this map at the beginning of the intro cutscene, which places us in either Bar-le-Duc, France, or near the city of Verdun, or perhaps one of the smaller villages in the area. The location to Origins isn't very specific. Regardless, it's the year 1918. This area, 2 years prior, was ravaged by the Battle of Verdun, one of the most costly battles of the war. It lasted from February of 1916 to December of 1916, about 303 days, and over that span there were about 700 casualties. It was one of the most costly battles of the war. In fact, during that time they would say that when the Germans were raiding the area with shells, 2 of 5 men were killed, about 2 in 5 men were buried alive, and then 1 was just waiting in, say, a trench like this. The war, to simplify it, or the battle to simplify it, was that the French wanted to defend the city of Verdun at all costs, while the Germans had the goal of just inflicting as many casualties to the French army as possible, and the fight continued for about 303 days in this region. The battle ultimately culminated in a French victory, which means that the French controlled this region. This is where our history and the game's history start to diverge. You see, it wouldn't make sense for Group 935, a group working in tandem with the German military, to have bases set up in this region. So that is where they start to see some inconsistencies in the game's history and our history. In addition to that, you can also look at, say, the letters from the field. Dempsey wrote about being in the Battle of Belleau Wood, which took place in June of 1918. However, his letter was written April 14th, 1918, and June 1918 is the same exact time as Origins. So none of the dates in Origins line up either. If they really wanted to set it during the Battle of Verdun, they should have done it in 1916, and this region didn't see that much fighting in 1918. It's very clear to Treyarch that the location and their story that they were trying to tell was more important than, say, the history and getting it right, and that doesn't even begin to account for the giant robots that we find in Origins. Regardless, it's still a great setting for Treyarch to set their World War I epic, and maybe if our history was more like the game's history, it would be trenches like these where our heroes like Tank Dempsey would be running around killing zombies, but instead we have heroes not made of pixels but of flesh who helped defend this region 100 years ago.